Welcome to Get Your Spirit in Shape, United Methodist Communications and UMC.org's podcast to help us keep our souls as healthy as our bodies. I'm Joe Iovino. When Pastor Myriam Cortes led chapel for us at the offices of United Methodist Communications, she shared a powerful message about a particularly difficult year in her life. Using the biblical story of Jesus inviting Peter to walk on the water with him, Pastor Myriam shared about how she got through several difficult events. One was about a government policy in the United States. Another deeply affected the church that she serves. The third was Hurricane Maria, a literal storm that caused Pastor Myriam to worry about her family in Puerto Rico when she could not reach them for 2 weeks. Pastor Myriam's teaching and example are a great help to all of us when we're going through the difficult storms of life. I'm in the studio today with Pastor Myriam Cortes. Myriam, welcome to Get Your Spirit in Shape.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to be here, and I'm so happy. Always is good to share what God is doing and the power of His transformation.
Before we begin, tell me a little about your congregation.
We're a Hispanic congregation right here at the Tennessee Conference. The congregation's name is Iglesia, Metodista, Unida, Ebenezer. We have 7 years. We are at West Nashville. And we are formed of 6 countries. What we have in common is that we speak Spanish, but there's 7 different cultures there. And, we come from Puerto Rico, Cuba, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and the United States.
That's quite a combination of bringing people together, but all speaking the same language, and the primary language in your congregation is Spanish, correct?
The primary language is Spanish, so the worship service mostly in Spanish. Now, the peculiar is that our children and youth, since are born here, their primary language is English. So our worship center tends to be a mix of culture and language sometimes, especially if the children and youth are leading the worship service. Then that day, the language that you were listening to is in English.
Okay, so there's more English on those days than others. Well, you were with us at United Methodist Communications, and you shared a devotional that really captured my attention, and I thought would be really interesting to talk about a little bit further. The devotion was about the storms of life and some of the storms that you've gone through personally. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes. That day, we were talking about Matthew 14, when the disciples are in the middle of the turbulent waters and windstorm, and Jesus come walking to them and called Peter. And as I listened to the scripture and I listened to the Holy Spirit, I started to remind myself of the different storms that I have been around this past year. And some of the storm had to do at the national level with the different new policies and changes of policy. I remember the first one that I talk about, it was the DACA, September 5th, 2017, with the new Trump administration announced that DACA will be terminated. Right now, it is on hold, but DACA is a way for children that were brought here to the United States, have a work permission for 2 years. It's a renewal every 2 years, but allow these children that are growing here by the age of 18, they can apply, actually by the age of 15, and they can give a work permit, but it does not guarantee any citizen. It just guarantees that you will not be deported if you get stopped.
Oh, okay.
Which has helped a lot of our young ones as soon as they finish school to get a job, to help the family, to think about going to college, a further education here. So that was the first thing that hit me last year.
Can I ask you a little bit about that?
Yes.
So when that's in jeopardy, or when that's kind of being talked about whether it'll continue or not, what does that do to someone who's been under that? Like, how does that make one feel?
Sad, frustration, vulnerable. Because first of all, these are children that are brought here since they were like 2-3 years old. The only country that they know is this one. The only culture that they know is parents and the one here. They had dreams. They had gone to school here. They want to continue furthering their education. Sure. They want to be part of this society, not only by living and sharing culture, but financially being able to be here and to produce. So when something like this is in jeopardy, they are exposed to be deported. So for someone that had never been in another country since they were 2, imagine how that feels, someone telling you you're going to be deported to Mexico or Honduras, and you're going like, what is there? I've never been there.
Yeah.
So it is. And then at the same time, they're not able to have jobs or continue education. So it's like there's nothing out there after I finish my high school. What is out there? And that was a lot of the questions that I got either by phone calls or by emails and text. A lot of the youth that we minister in our community are calling. And I said, Pastor, how can this happen? Why is going to happen to me? And I had worked so hard being in school. I had done good in my grades. But what is there?
Yeah.
So it is invulnerable.
Yeah, so it's interesting to hear how that affects individuals kind of in a day-to-day basis. So often we hear of those things, those of us that are not in that community, as an issue that's kind of out there, not how it affects us in day-to-day living. So it's good to hear how that's affecting the community.
Yeah.
How did that, you mentioned also another storm of kind of those issues coming home and right into your church. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. One of the other storms that hit us was families being separated. Not only what we hear in the news and social media about families at the border being separated, children kept in cages, but for our church family, a couple of years ago, one of our members was stopped, and of course, not being able to present documentation, it brought a new process of it, and to be detained in jail for 30 days and then a bail bond and everything. But since you don't have documentation, you immediately, in his case, he started deportation process. And we work as a church and with other lawyers that the family hired to stop this deportation process. But years after, we couldn't. And we have to say goodbye. And he was deported to his home country, Honduras. And I remember that last 6 months, we wrote letters to our senators, to our representatives, other friends from other congregations, sister United Methodist congregation, that we have been in a relationship and covenants, that they have known us already. They have relationship with this family. They got involved also by writing letters, by advocating in their own Sunday school classes, being very engaged. But at the end, the deportation agent made his decision, and his decision was to be deported. I remember the last week that I spoke with him, and I said, are you ready? And I'm thinking in my mind, everything that can be going through his mind, and I'm leaving my wife, I'm leaving this country, I'm leaving my children here. Who's going to look after them when I'm gone? And he said, I'm in peace. I gave the good fight. I did everything in my power legally to stop this process. I have fasted, I have prayed, I have a church community that have prayed with me. And since things did not went the way that I wanted it, then with courage, I'm going to go back knowing that God has a plan. And even though that deportation is going to break my heart, saying goodbye to my loved ones and to the church family, I'll be in peace because I know that there were people here that acknowledged that I was a human being, that I was a person, that I was created in God's image, that gave me love, that were able to support me by prayers, by letters, but by their presence. They hold me in their arms. They gave me hugs. I remember one of the Sunday school class, I gave them a prayer shout. They have prayed for it. And I pray for him, and I anointed him, and I send him with my blessing. And I remember going home, driving back home, and I say, this is an example of what faith is. You're in the middle of the storm, but at the same time, you are grounded that God did not leave you and he will not forsake you, no matter if it's in here or back in your country. But his presence will always be there. And I said, I need to learn from this gentleman what faith is and be strong and optimistic. He left and I said, I know I'm going to see my family again. I know God will find a way out. I cannot see it now, but I know this. And the beauty of it, out of this, that even him back in his country will still have communication. And the same ministry that he was doing here, he started gathering children where he was there and started doing the same thing. So I'm like, God works miracles. And in the middle of the pain and in the middle of the storm, he can still bring light and new beginnings. But for us as a church, it made us stronger. Not only my local church, but the relationship with other churches, sister churches. That was the first time that a lot of our sisters and brothers from other congregations saw firsthand what the social media had talked about, the separation. They were there. They saw the years of fighting the system. So it was very interesting.
You said it was a multi-year process?
7 years.
7 years.
For this family, it took them 7 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a person who was very involved in your congregation, right?
Yes.
What were some of you talked a little bit about, he had a ministry with children?
Yes. Her father, her husband, faithful member, leader, he led the soccer ministry. And if a little bit of our church, we started in a soccer field. We did not start in a building.
Oh, wow.
We were only 5 adults with about 7 children. We didn't know just to get together for devotionally on Wednesday night and thinking, how can we engage in a community? And the soccer came about. It said, let's play soccer and let's sit down with the parents and share the devotionally. So that's how we started. And the fruit today of every family that's in the church is that engaged in the community through the soccer ministry. So he was a vital point of our ministry there in the community.
So he was part of the founding group of the church?
He came about a year and a half after.
Okay.
His son and nephew were part of that first soccer team. And he saw what we were doing. And for him, it was interesting the way that we reach out the community. We love them where you are. We find you where you are. So his family started asking, like, can you tell me a little more about this Methodist church and the way you guys engage? Like, you're not telling me, come to the church. The church come to me and be present with me in the middle of everything that is going on in the community. And I say, well, our main focus is loving your neighbors. In this hurting world, we need to love each other. And then coming to the church, we'll come after. We'll come when we start inviting you to things. But right now, our main goal is to be present with you as our neighbor. So that for him was very touching, appealing, that this new way of being in a community was very different for what they were used to before. And he got engaged to the ministry and eventually got engaged at church, became a member. His children was baptized at the church, and so his whole family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just love that. That's something all of us can do in a way. Just gather people together around a common interest, and wonderful things happen and people's lives are changed. What a fantastic ministry. We might not all start a church from it, but we can do all kinds of other things.
Relationships.
Well. Relationships, right.
Relationship.
Right, very good. How can the average person get involved, or what can we do to help with some of these issues? Are there ways we who are not Hispanic support Spanish-speaking people in our communities, in our areas? What are some things we can do?
It's a question that comes in my daily. At least 3 or 4 times a day, people ask me, how can we be more supportive of your community? And I'll say, it depends of the gift and talents. And some people have gift to be advocated, and there's so many institutions and nonprofit organizations around our city. If Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Coalition, Nashville Community Defense, Moral Movement Tennessee, you can get involved in advocating. for a better immigration reformation. But I like to say I have a call not only to be engaged and advocate publicly, but I have a call to bring a face to what immigration is. And that means I advocate a lot by listening to the story. Listen to the story of these children. Listen to the story of these youth. Some of these youth have done the journey that takes them sometimes 20 days, 30 days from their country to be here, to be reunited with other families. Listen to the parents. What made them decide to leave their own country? To the uncertain journey, to the dangerous, to the knowing that you are not able to come back. If your mom gets sick, I have so many friends in the community that the parent had died without them seeing them for the last time. They've been here 10, 12, 15 years.
Sure.
They can go back. So listening to this story, you acknowledging that I am present here. You acknowledge that I am a person worth of dignity, that I'm created at the image of God. You are inviting me to be in a space with you. Sometimes people say to me, I love your people. And I say, what people? And they say, I see you guys are so hard worker. I see the landscaping guy, he's a hard worker. And I see the lady who cleans here, hard worker. Oh God, my heart. And I say, what are their names? They don't know their names. And I said, let's start there. Let's start by knowing my name, by sitting at the table across from me, by looking into my eye. Acknowledge that I'm a person here. I'm no longer in the shadows. And as a church, and I fell in the middle of everything, no matter where you stand in the immigration issue, at the political standards kind of view, but being present with a person as a church, that we are the body of Christ, I think we are called at least beginning by acknowledging that we're equal in the guys, that we're created equal, and that Christ called us to love our neighbor. And it starts by being in the table, having that conversation, allowing at least to know your story before I decide anything at the national political views. At least I'm going to know who you are. And I see that through the ministry of Christ. He was present with the people. He took the time to listen and be present, to be loved, to be compassion, to minister out of compassion. And I think as members of a church of Christ, we are called to be present. And if I listen in the middle of the storm to the voice of God, I say, God is calling us to sit in the table, to be present, to listen to each other. So I'll say start by listening to the stories. Get connected around if your churches have other Hispanic congregations in the conference or in the district around you. Get to know that pastor. Get to know that. Do things together. Sit at the table. We may not speak the same language, but come on. Who doesn't love to sit at the table and eat food together? and that will start a lot of conversation just by placing food in the table. And then after that, advocate. The way people have many gifts. There are lawyers in our congregations that they can advocate at that level. People that are passionate to be publicly engaged in the changing movement. And of course, there are other organizations that help provide. First responders help provide for families that are going through losing a parent. What that does for children when you come home from school and you find out that your parents are being taken.
Yeah.
They're going to need food. They're going to be a shelter that time. They may need a person to take them to school the next day. So get involved in organizations that ministry already, because there are so many in place all around our cities here in the United States where you need to find them and get involved on them.
When you did the devotion here at United Methodist Communications, one of the other storms that you talked about was a literal storm in your home country or your hometown. Can you talk about that? Because I think that connects back a little bit.
Yes, that was definitely a storm. It was Hurricane Maria, September 20, 2017. I'm original from Puerto Rico, and Hurricane Maria hit my country. It has been the biggest hurricane for the past 100 years. The entire island was hit. And I still remember that morning as I watched the news and I was seeing the image of that monster, catastrophic image of the hurricane to my little island that was going to go through.
Yeah.
And I remember praying for my family and the rest of my fellow Puerto Ricans. And that morning I was called to preach in a chapel. And I was there in the middle giving a message. And I remember my phone vibrating a lot. And after the message, and we finished chapel, pick up the phone, and it was a message friend of mine and another one from my cousin saying, we're in the middle. It's hitting us. And after that, I didn't have no more communication for days. It took about 15 days for me to know about my cousin and about my grandfather was okay. It took us days to know about my father and family. They were left with no electricity, no water. And I remember the weeks that I didn't have any communication, didn't know if they were fine or not. And my hometown is a sea level. So they took a big hit there. And it was weird how my mind and my heart reacted. I wake up early in the morning to take a shower, and I was taking a shower, and I go like, I have water where my family doesn't have water. Every time that I went to eat something, I said, I don't even know if they have anything to eat. And it was hard since it's an island to get first respond there. And I knew that it was going to take weeks and months. And it took them almost 5 months to get electricity and water back. And of course, I have so many friends and family members that are people dependent on oxygen or insulin dependent, and I knew it was going to be hard for them. And it's still today, a year after, and there's still many places in my hometown island that don't have electricity. Homes, when I went 5 months after plane hit, was getting close to the island, all the houses with the plastic blue turf on it, it was unbelievable. It was my biggest shock. I said, how can this happen? It's still months after. And I got there and I started going to the mountain, and it was devastation after devastation. I saw families who got frustrated because help were not getting, that they picked wood pieces from that their home had been blown off, and their pieces were scattered apart, and they were picking them up and rebuilding as much as they can to provide a roof over their head for the children. And I saw families putting children to sleep in the same mattress that was wet 5 months before. And I said, how can this happen? So it was a storm that lasted not only those 12 hours or 10 hours that it had lasted for a while in my heart as I see this. But at the same time, and I'm listening, we can never be far out that God's grace will not cover us. And as I stay focused in Jesus, say what God is calling us to do. And once again, it's being present and organizing here, movement in my local church and friends to send food, to send some type of relief, helping families to rebuild a roof or a little piece of half side of their home that it was still missing. Those little things have brought comfort not only to them, but for the families here that were able to help.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And talking about it, I'm so grateful that other sister churches have asked about it, have invited me, and I've been able to express, show pictures, and they're being able to engage in ministry themselves through UN Corn to go to Puerto Rico. So I said, we have a voice. God is calling it not to stay in the silence and see whatever is going in the social media and say, oh, poor brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico, this has happened. Well, we need to get past that and say, then how can we be engaged?
Right.
How can I be engaged? And that's the real calling, that in the middle of the storm, God is asking to listen to his voice, to what he's calling us to do, to be present with the ones suffering, with the one that are crying, with the one that are being oppressed and marginalized, with the one that don't have the food, no electricity, no water, or with the ones that don't have any voice and live in the shadow in our cities. But God is always calling us. There's always an invitation for us to be the hands and feet of Christ, to bring hope, to bring that light in the life of others.
And you keep saying just to be present, right? That doesn't take any special skills. It doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of anything, just to show up and to be present with someone and listen.
Yes.
Listen to stories of grief. Listen to stories of that you don't understand how things got the way they are, all of those things, and just to be with people. How did you, I noticed that you said several of those things happened within weeks of each other, right? That was quite a season to go through. How did you stay grounded? Like what sustained you through all of that?
Knowing that Jesus is in the middle of this storm. Knowing that he is the one that calms the winds and the waters. I took that to my heart. I said, I know that his grace is still here. But how do I live his grace in the middle of all this when I'm myself? I'm crying for my own family. Right. And I'm crying for everything that is going around me. Having a small covenant group. I went to my covenant group and I cried. And I cried. And they did what they do best. Be present. They didn't have no answer for me how to solve what I was going, where I was feeling. But they knew what they do best, which is being present. Their arms, they were holding, their words of affirmation. And at that time, it's exactly what Christ does in the middle of everything that he have encountered. When he was present, he was those arms to make people feel, I'm here, I'm holding you. The other one at the same time is taking my personal time to be in silence. I have developed a spiritual discipline to take walks in nature, in the middle of nature. Constantly, I'm blessed to live very close to a lake. So I go a lot to the lake and write. If I walk and I sit down at the bench, I write. I journal. My prayers, my meditation, my reflection, I journal. And that has kept me reminded constantly as I write and I read it again. This is God's grace. He's here. He's telling me this. He's guiding me. I may not know where I'm going right now. Things may seem so turbulent around me, but I know his grace will sustain me. I know this because it has happened before in my life. It has happened in the life of other ones. God does not abandon his children. Never. We just have to know that the storms are going to hit us and it's going to come out of everywhere, anywhere. In the moment that least expected us, it will be. But his presence will always be there also. Mm-hmm.
One of the things I really admire that I hear you say is you never dismiss the storm as like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It's bad. I mean, things go on and they hurt us and we can be upset and we can cry.
Oh, yeah. A storm hit us. Every day we wanted to admit it or not. And the best thing, one of the things that the scripture when I admire is that said Jesus sent his disciples knowing that the waters are going to start rising, that the wind is going to hit. But he sent them, not because he wanted them to disturb their life or something bad for them, but to strengthen their faith that who is with them in the middle of this storm. So when the storm hit my life, I won't say immediately I welcome them. Because now I go like, I'm going to get. But at the same time, I say, okay, let me pause. I say, God is present. How can I listen to his voice in the middle? What is this storm is going to allow me to grow? Because after it passed, you say, it has helped me grow in this and this, and I learned this lesson. But don't dismiss the storm in your life, because the storm is where you find your strongest trusting and dependency in God's grace and in Jesus being there present. I think we grow to the storm. If the storm does not hit our life, I don't think we can grow in faith. Because if everything is nice and pink all the time and beautiful, we will never grow. But we grow in the middle of the storm, and some storms leave us so heartbroken. But the beauty of it is God doesn't dismiss your brokenness at all.
Right.
But from brokenness, He mended in something beautiful out of it.
I have asked you today to relive some of that heartbrokenness, and I am really grateful that you are willing to do that and to share your story with us today. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm honored to share, and especially because I know that I love hearing Newman say, wounded healer. And I think that's a big part of us as believers, how we live for values, Christian values, and as a body of Christ, we become wounded healers for others.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That was Pastor Myriam Cortes of Iglesia Metodista Unida Ebenezer in Nashville, Tennessee. Learn more about her and her church by visiting umc.org/podcasts and look for this episode titled Weathering Life's Storms. As always, there are more links on the page for you to explore, along with other United Methodist podcasts you might want to add to your queue. My email address is there as well, so you can share with me your thoughts about Get Your Spirit in Shape. Thanks for listening, downloading, and subscribing. I'll be back soon with another episode to help us keep our souls as healthy as our bodies. I'm Joy Avino. Peace.